You wake up, check your phone, and already feel the quiet pressure to respond faster, show more interest, and prove you're the most committed one in every group chat, meeting, or opportunity that comes your way. At work, you lean forward a little too eagerly when ideas are discussed. In relationships, you text back quickly and make yourself available, hoping it will make things solid. Over time, this constant eagerness drains you. Others seem to move slower, speak less, and still command respect while you feel overlooked or taken for granted. The worst part is the subtle inner voice that wonders why your effort doesn't bring the results or peace you expected. This pattern is common in modern life, and it quietly erodes your dignity and focus. Stoicism cuts straight through it with a clear truth. If this resonates, hit the like button and subscribe for more practical Stoic insights that strengthen your mind. Number 1. The hidden cost of eagerness. The most eager person in any room occupies the lowest position because their visible hunger signals a lack of inner sufficiency. When you display excessive enthusiasm, you unconsciously tell others that you need their approval or the outcome more than they need you. This shifts the power dynamic immediately. People sense it even if they cannot name it. In negotiations, promotions, or social circles, the one who appears least dependent holds the stronger position. Stoicism teaches that true strength comes from self-mastery, not from external validation. Eagerness reveals the opposite, a mind still ruled by externals. Over months and years, this habit trains your own character downward. Each time you rush to prove your value, you weaken the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth does not require constant performance. The Stoics observed that the wise person acts with purpose, but never with desperation. They respond rather than react. Your eagerness might feel like passion on the surface, but examined closely, it is often anxiety wearing better clothes. It pushes you to compromise standards, accept poor treatment, or overlook red flags simply to stay in the game. Consider how this appears in everyday professional settings. The colleague who volunteers for every task, nods vigorously at every suggestion, and stays late to be noticed rarely becomes the one others seek for leadership. Instead, they become reliable background support. Respect flows toward those who carry themselves with measured calm, who contribute without seeming to grasp for recognition. This is not manipulation. It is the natural consequence of human perception. We value what appears scarce and self-possessed. The same pattern repeats in personal relationships. The more eagerly you pursue connection, the more the other person can afford emotional distance. Stoic practice demands you cultivate your own inner garden first, so that you enter every interaction already whole. When your mind is settled within itself, your presence carries weight without effort. Eagerness dissolves when you no longer view other people as the source of your completeness. Long-term, this eagerness creates a cycle of disappointment and self-doubt. You invest heavily in outcomes you cannot control, then feel crushed when they do not match your emotional expenditure. The Stoic alternative is measured engagement. You participate fully but remain detached from results. This protects your energy and preserves your dignity regardless of how others behave. Mastering this insight changes how you move through the world. You stop broadcasting need and begin embodying quiet certainty. Others notice the shift before you say a word. Doors that once stayed closed start to open not because you push harder, but because you finally stop pushing. Number 2. Stoic roots of this truth. Epictetus taught that external things have no inherent power over us. Our judgments about them create disturbance. Eagerness arises from a judgment that we must have something outside ourselves to be okay. Number 3. Eagerness in modern life. Social media rewards visible eagerness through likes, comments, and shares. Many creators and professionals exhaust themselves performing constant enthusiasm, while quieter voices with stronger boundaries gain deeper respect and sustainable careers. The platform amplifies the ancient problem, but does not change the solution. In dating and friendships, the person who appears least invested often holds more cards. This is not a game. It is psychology. When you are complete in yourself, you naturally set healthier paces and standards. Others feel the difference and respond with greater effort of their own. Workplace culture frequently mistakes busyness and visible hustle for competence. Yet the leaders who last and command loyalty are usually those who speak less, promise less, and deliver steadily without fanfare. Their calm creates confidence in others. Your eagerness can signal anxiety about your own value. Consumer culture pushes the same button. Advertising sells the idea that you are one purchase or experience away from finally being enough. The Stoic sees through this and refuses to chase. The person who buys, follows, and signals desperately is the lowest in the transaction. The one who chooses deliberately holds power. Even in health and self-improvement, excessive public eagerness often leads to burnout and inconsistency. Quiet, steady discipline outlasts dramatic declarations. The Stoics value daily practice over spectacular effort. Consistency without fanfare builds unbreakable character. Recognizing these patterns lets you move differently. You engage with intention rather than hunger. You contribute without needing immediate feedback. This shift improves every area of life because it realigns your actions with reality instead of illusion. Number 4, building the opposite habit. Start by noticing your physical posture and speech patterns when eagerness arises. Do you lean in, speak faster, offer more than asked? These are signals to slow down and recenter. Small adjustments in body and tone create immediate changes in how others perceive you. Practice measured responses. When someone shares an opportunity, pause before replying. Give yourself time to evaluate rather than grasp. This single habit signals self-possession and raises your perceived value instantly. Develop your own standards so firmly that external validation becomes secondary. Know what kind of work you respect, what kind of relationships nourish you, what kind of life aligns with reason. When these are clear, eagerness has nowhere to take root. Cultivate solitude and reflection daily. The Stoics used morning and evening reviews to strengthen independence. Time away from noise reminds you that your mind is sufficient company. From this foundation, social interactions become choices rather than needs. Focus on process and virtue instead of outcomes. Do excellent work because it reflects good character, not because you crave promotion. Love people because it is right, not because you fear loneliness. This orientation frees you from the tyranny of results. Over months, these practices compound. You become the person who listens more than speaks, contributes without claiming credit, and remains steady when others fluctuate. This is the Stoic ideal made visible, and it naturally elevates your position without any forced effort. Number 5, the freedom of not needing. The deepest freedom arrives when you genuinely do not need to be the most eager person anymore. You participate fully in life, but remain untouched in your core. This state produces remarkable clarity and calm that others feel as strength. Your relationships improve because you offer presence without strings. People stay not because you chase them, but because your company is valuable and undemanding. This creates healthier bonds based on mutual respect rather than obligation. In career and ambitions, you advance more effectively by focusing on mastery instead of signaling. Opportunities come to those who are ready and self-possessed rather than those broadcasting availability. Patience becomes a superpower. Inner peace grows steadily. Without the constant expenditure of emotional energy on outcomes, you reclaim vast resources for your own development and for helping others without resentment. This is the Stoic way of living abundantly while wanting little. Eventually, this mindset spreads to every area. You become someone who can walk away when necessary, speak truth when required, and enjoy success without being controlled by it. The most eager person was always the lowest. The self-sufficient person stands at the center, unshaken. Living this truth does not make you cold or distant. It makes you reliable, dignified, and free. In a world full of noise and grasping, your calm presence becomes its own powerful statement. This is the practical reward of Stoic wisdom applied daily. Number 6, how eagerness sabotages your goals. The most eager person in the room undermines their own goals because their visible need distorts judgment and weakens execution. When you chase outcomes too openly, you lose the clarity needed to make sound decisions. Every opportunity starts to look urgent. Every person appears more important than they are. Small setbacks feel like total failures. This emotional volatility turns what could be steady progress into a series of reactive moves that rarely reach their intended destination. Over months, the constant pressure you place on yourself creates mental fatigue that makes consistent effort harder to sustain. This pattern slowly trains others to devalue your contributions without them ever saying it aloud. They learn they can delay responses, reduce offers, or shift terms in their favor because your hunger makes you predictable and overly flexible. What begins as genuine ambition quietly becomes a pattern of over-accommodation that erodes both your results and your self-respect. Stoicism insists you protect your rational faculty above all else, and eagerness directly attacks it by turning externals into necessities rather than preferences. The mind that needs the deal to close or the relationship to work loses its ability to evaluate situations accurately. Consider long-term projects or career advancement. The eager professional often spreads themselves thin across too many initiatives simply to be seen as dedicated and useful. Meanwhile, the more composed person selects fewer opportunities and executes them with greater precision and depth. In the end, depth consistently beats breadth when the work is driven by desperation instead of clear purpose. The Stoics understood that real excellence requires sustained attention, something that visible eagerness constantly interrupts with its restless scanning for the next hit of approval or quick progress. This sabotage shows up strongly in personal development as well. Eager self-improvers frequently jump between different systems, teachers, and methods, always searching for the next external solution that will finally make them feel complete. Real growth, however, demands patient and consistent work done for its own sake over long periods. When eagerness drives the process, discipline collapses the moment visible results slow down or recognition fails to arrive as hoped. The cycle repeats, leaving behind scattered efforts and quiet frustration. The quiet truth many discover too late is that goals achieved through visible hunger often come with hidden costs, compromised values, unstable foundations, and lingering anxiety that remains even after surface success arrives. True Stoic achievement feels entirely different. It comes through deliberate, self-directed action that does not depend on the room's immediate reaction for its meaning or continuation. This creates results that are more solid and satisfying because they are built on internal standards rather than external pressure. Releasing eagerness does not mean abandoning your ambitions. It means purifying them. You pursue the same goals, but from a place of inner sufficiency, which increases your effectiveness because your mind stays clear and your effort remains undiluted by fear of loss or rejection. This shift alone can transform both the quality of your work and the peace you experience while doing it. Number 7, the silent judgment of others. People instinctively assess your level of need within the first few interactions, and eagerness broadcasts the lowest status without a single word being spoken. Others may smile and engage politely on the surface, yet they register your overinvestment and quietly adjust their respect downward. This is not necessarily cruelty or conscious manipulation. It is a natural human response to perceived strength and weakness in social hierarchies that have existed across cultures and centuries. The eager person becomes someone others tolerate or use rather than deeply respect or seek out. In group settings, the person who fills every silence or volunteers excessively becomes background noise after a while. The individual who speaks only when they have something measured and valuable to contribute stands out precisely because their words and actions carry the weight of restraint and self-control. Stoicism has always valued this economy of action and speech as an outward sign of genuine inner order and clarity. Restraint itself becomes a form of power that eager enthusiasm cannot match. This silent judgment appears most clearly in situations involving leadership and influence. Teams tend to follow and trust those who seem complete in themselves, not those who appear desperate for followers or validation. Customers give more loyalty to suppliers who set clear terms rather than those who seem overly anxious to close every deal. The pattern repeats reliably because humans are wired to value what appears self-sustaining and steady rather than needy. Your eagerness may feel like positive energy to you, but it often reads as insecurity to others. Even in close personal relationships, this dynamic operates. Friends and partners may enjoy your eagerness in the beginning, but over time it can breed subtle resentment or complacency on their side. When one person visibly invests more emotional energy, the natural balance of the relationship is lost and genuine connection suffers. The Stoic path restores equality and depth by ensuring you bring fullness and self-possession rather than hunger or dependency into every interaction. Number 8. Patience as true power. Patience is the natural and powerful opposite of eagerness, representing one of the highest expressions of Stoic strength in action. The person who can wait without inner agitation holds a distinct advantage because time itself becomes their ally rather than their enemy. While the eager mind rushes to resolve uncertainty and discomfort as quickly as possible, the patient mind uses that same uncertainty as a valuable period for careful observation, preparation, and clearer thinking. This creates better decisions and stronger positions over time. This power manifests reliably in negotiations, conflicts, and new opportunities. The one who does not need immediate resolution can maintain their position longer and often secures significantly better terms. Eagerness forces premature closure and unnecessary compromise. Patience allows reality to reveal itself more fully before you commit. Marcus Aurelius practiced this deliberately amid constant imperial pressure, choosing measured response over reactive impulse, even when the stakes were extremely high. In today's world of instant communication and rapid feedback loops, patience feels almost rebellious and countercultural. Yet it consistently separates those who build lasting achievements from those who chase temporary validation and quick wins. The Stoics saw time as a profound teacher and viewed eagerness as a refusal to learn its lessons. Slowing down intentionally lets you separate what truly matters from what only feels urgent in the moment. Cultivating patience requires repeated small acts of conscious restraint in daily life. Delaying your reply by an hour when you feel the urge to respond immediately. Sitting with discomfort instead of reaching for quick relief or distraction. Finishing your own work thoroughly before checking for external recognition. Each instance strengthens the muscle of self-mastery and weakens the automatic habit of outward grasping and chasing. The deepest benefit of patience is an internal calm that no external success or approval can ever reliably provide. When patience becomes your default operating mode, anxiety about missing out or being left behind steadily loses its grip on your mind. You begin to act from clear choice rather than emotional pressure, and this freedom naturally expresses itself in higher quality decisions and more sustainable long-term effort. Ultimately, patience transforms your entire presence in the world. You become someone others wait for, listen to, and remember, not because you demanded attention through eagerness, but because your measured approach signals a mind that cannot be easily shaken or controlled by circumstances. This is quiet power that compounds over years. Number 9. Reclaiming your inner authority. Eagerness quietly hands over your inner authority to the room, to the audience, or to the other person in every interaction. Every time you overinvest emotionally in an outcome you cannot fully control, you make your sense of peace and self-worth contingent on factors outside your power. Stoicism demands that you reclaim this authority by placing your primary focus exclusively on what truly belongs to you: your judgments, your efforts, your character, and your responses. This reclamation is foundational to living with freedom and dignity. The process begins with honest and repeated self-examination. Notice the specific moments when you feel that familiar internal pull to prove yourself, to be liked, to be chosen, or to be seen as valuable. Behind the surface behavior, there is usually an unspoken belief that you are not yet enough without external confirmation. The Stoic response is to challenge that belief directly and persistently until it loses its hold over your actions and emotions. As your inner authority strengthens, the compulsive need to broadcast eagerness fades away naturally. You contribute because the action aligns with your values and standards, not because you require a specific response or result to feel okay. This shift is deeply liberating because it ends the exhausting mental calculation of how much you should give versus what you might receive in return. Life becomes simpler and more dignified. In daily practice, this looks like doing your work at the highest standard regardless of who is watching or what immediate feedback arrives. Speaking with clarity instead of constantly seeking agreement. Maintaining your own principles even when others lower theirs around you. These repeated acts gradually rebuild the self-trust that years of eagerness had slowly eroded without you fully noticing. The long-term result is a profound steadiness that begins to influence every domain of life. External challenges still arise, sometimes intensely, but they no longer threaten your core sense of self. Success arrives as a welcome byproduct, rather than the desperate central goal. Failure becomes useful information, rather than a statement about your worth. This emotional stability is rare and highly valuable. Reclaiming this inner authority represents the quiet revolution that Stoicism invites in each person willing to listen. Number 10. Living the Stoic advantage. Embodying the principle that the most eager person in the room is the lowest gives you a genuine and lasting advantage in every area of modern life. While others exhaust themselves chasing approval, visibility, and quick validation, you conserve your energy and direct it toward what actually matters over the long term. This creates compound results over years that eager, scattered effort almost never matches in quality or sustainability. The advantage appears clearly in clearer thinking, stronger personal boundaries, and more authentic relationships. People can sense when someone operates from a place of fullness rather than lack, and they naturally respond with greater trust, openness, and respect. Your calm, measured presence becomes quietly magnetic without any need for forced charisma or constant performance. This changes how opportunities and connections flow toward you. Stoic practice turns this principle from interesting theory into reliable daily reality. Morning reflection prepares your mind to meet the day without hunger or desperation. Evening review strengthens the habit of healthy detachment from outcomes. Between these bookends, consistent action taken for its own sake slowly builds unshakable character that serves you in both good times and difficult ones. This way of living does not isolate you from the world or make you cold. Instead, it allows fuller and more effective participation because you're no longer controlled by it. You can enjoy success when it arrives without being owned by it, and you can weather disappointment or failure without being destroyed. Freedom and practical effectiveness increase together as natural companions. In the end, the person who is no longer the most eager in any room discovers something deeper and more valuable than external achievements alone. Genuine inner peace combined with quiet personal power. The everyday struggle and inner conflict that once felt constant become manageable and transient. What remains is a life that feels more aligned with nature, reason, and your own best self. Adopting this Stoic truth does not guarantee easy outcomes or constant success, but it does guarantee that you will face every outcome, good or bad, with greater dignity, clarity, and resilience. That inner victory is the real reward available to anyone willing to release the exhausting habit of eagerness and step fully into self-mastery. The truth is simple yet difficult to live. The most eager person in the room is always the lowest. This is not a harsh judgment, but a clear observation of how human nature and power dynamics operate. When you constantly signal need, approval-seeking, or emotional investment, you place yourself beneath those who remain measured and self-possessed. Stoicism does not ask you to become cold or indifferent. It asks you to stop abandoning your inner authority in exchange for temporary comfort or validation. Every outline in this video points to the same practical path. Observe your impulses, slow down your responses, and root your worth firmly inside your own character rather than in external outcomes. This shift is subtle at first, but it fundamentally changes how you move through work, relationships, and daily challenges. As you practice releasing eagerness, you will notice a quiet strength returning. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer clouded by fear of missing out or being overlooked. Relationships grow healthier because you bring wholeness instead of hunger. Your work gains depth and dignity because it is performed for its own sake rather than for applause. Over time, people begin to treat you differently, not because you chase their respect, but because you no longer need it to feel secure. This is the Stoic advantage, a calm, unshakable presence that commands attention without demanding it. You participate fully in life while remaining free from its frantic pull. The inner conflict that once drained you gradually fades, replaced by steady focus and genuine peace. Start today with small, consistent actions. Pause before applying. Contribute without seeking recognition. Keep your standards high, even when no one is watching. The world will test you, but each test is an opportunity to strengthen this new way of being. You do not need to be the loudest, the fastest, or the most visibly committed. You only need to be steady, clear, and self-directed. That is enough. If this message served you, share your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Apply one principle this week and observe what changes. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay calm, and remember, your inner freedom is always within your power.